Now, I'm a great believer in freedom of speech, that people have the right to protest. But isn't it wise not to protest on a day that is held aside for something special?
With all due respect, Jacob, I don't think you're a great believer in freedom of speech, or that you understand much about Armistice Day. It's literally called Armistice Day, and we're marching for an armistice. So ask yourself this question. Who are the people who better represent the traditions of Wilfred Owen and Siegfried Sassoon? Who are the people who better represent the traditions of horror at the carnage of war? Is it a government that is funding and supporting a state that has murdered over 10,000 people now in Gaza, including 4,000 children? Or is it those of us who will pour onto the streets from every community across Britain to say that we want the massacre to stop?
Well, first of all, you're taking the Hamas figures, which we know are unreliable, and that they've exaggerated some of the figures for their own propaganda purposes.
Jacob, every single figure released by the Gaza Health Ministry has an Israeli-issued ID number attached to it, Jacob. Are you saying those figures aren't true?
The Gaza Health Ministry is part of the Hamas state. It's a
Jacob,
Hamas
they have an Israeli-issued ID number attached to them. Did you know that?
The figures that are coming out of Hamas are propaganda.
Did you know they have an Israeli-issued ID number?
They are part of the Hamas state. That's the key point. The Israeli number is an irrelevance. But let's get on to what...
Every single name of a human being released is a verified name, and we've seen pictures of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people.
Let's start with how this began.
When their homes were bombed, when their hospitals were bombed,
and the head of the UN points out that Hamas is using people as human shields. So terrorists are hiding behind children, the elderly and the unwell. And these terrorists...
Are you really okay with this?
With terrorists? Of course I'm not okay with terrorists using human shields. It's disgraceful. It's wicked.
Are you really okay with the bombing of a refugee camp?
Human shields are being used by Hamas.
Just answer the question, because we're on the streets because we're not okay with it. Are you okay with the bombing of a refugee camp?
You're on the streets supporting, giving succour to people who carried out the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Are you okay with that? That's where it started.
We're on the streets to oppose the bombing of refugee camps, hospitals, homes, schools. Jacob,
where did this start?
Well, it started in 1948 with the ethnic cleansing of 700,000 Palestinians.
This started on the 7th of October with the murder of 1,300 people and babies being beheaded. You're justifying that.
Jacob, there are 2.2. Of course not.
So will you criticise Hamas as terrorists?
Listen. I want the violence to end. Here's how the violence can end. There are 2.2 million people penned into an open-air prison in Gaza. The significant majority of those people are not from Gaza. They're refugees who were ethnically cleansed from their homes in 1948. Now, I know that the people you admire are fine with that. Winston Churchill said he didn't mind when a superior race displaced an inferior one.
No.
That's how he talked about what happened in Palestine. But some of us feel from all over Britain...
Most of the people... But you've had plenty of time. Most of the people living in Israel have had to go there fleeing persecution where they lived, and mainly persecution in the Middle East.
No, actually, that's not true.
They're mainly Sephardi Jews.
Some of my family members who live in Israel came from Europe.
Yes, but the majority didn't. The majority came from the Middle East.
Do you know why my family went to Israel, Jacob? It's because white Christian Europeans who believed in tradition and hierarchy spent 2,000 years excluding and then massacring us. So I will take no lectures from white Christian Europeans who believe in order and hierarchy about anti-Semitism. Just because people like you spent thousands of years murdering us, I don't think Palestinians
people like me did not do that, actually. You can't blame me.
White Christian
You can't blame me for things that had nothing to do with me.
Do you know why I do? Do you know why I do? Because the same logic that says that some life is worthwhile and other lives aren't